Anatoly Mikhailovich Kashpirovsky was born in 1939. An ordinary boy who went through the standard school classes typical for his peers at that time, he received a good education, entered the Vinnytsia Medical Institute, graduated from it, and became a psychiatrist. At that time, there was a joke about psychiatrists. A surgeon is when both the doctor and the patient know what hurts. A therapist is when the doctor knows, but the patient doesn't. And a psychiatrist is when neither the doctor nor the patient knows what's going on. In other words, the most cunning ones became psychiatrists, as they had nothing to be accountable for since there was no way to measure the results. But the young Dr. Kashpirovsky was different. After working in the hospital for less than 10 years, he began practicing hypnosis, attempting to push the boundaries of accepted practice, and even dared to perform as a hypnotist in concerts, imitating the famous Wolf Messing of that time. This was in 1970. What do you think could have happened to him, a simple guy from the provinces after that? No connections, no patronage, no special career advancement opportunities. It was a quiet time. Vertical mobility, as they say now, was blocked. What achievements could a psychiatrist attain? Well, he could, of course, diagnose a protesting dissident and become valuable to the officials from the nomenclature. However, he didn't. He went his own way. He risked becoming a clown. He took up concerts. It didn't matter that they were called psychological experiments or hypnosis on the posters. People came to watch, like at a circus. People loved spectacles. In these performances, he talked about the unusual state called hypnosis, and these stories always shocked the audience. Here on stage is a decent person, a voluntary participant in the experiments, and if you tell him that he has an apple in his hands, he will eat an onion with relish without even grimacing. Or another example. A hypnotized spectator in a state of sleep lies across chairs, supported only by his heels and head, turning into a kind of bridge, a straight plank. This bridge rests on only 2 points on a hard support, but when the hypnotist calls for volunteers and several people sit on him, the incredible happens. The body doesn't bend or break under their weight, remains motionless, and later, the awakened fellow, whom the hypnotist wizard woke up by snapping his fingers in front of his face, remembers absolutely nothing. Neither the laughter of the hall, nor his sleep on the chairs, nor how he carelessly undressed after the hypnotist's words. Heat! You are on the beach. Yes, it's all funny and amusing, but the most striking thing is, of course, mind reading, an experiment that Kashpirovsky repeated, copying Messing. Anyone from the audience could write a task on a piece of paper, and, in the presence of witnesses from the same audience, hide something from their belongings. Where to hide was determined by the volunteers' imagination. They hid everything. A ticket to the concert, a cloakroom token, a watch, or a comb. Leaving the hall and placing the item in some secluded place was not difficult. The question was, how would the practicing mind reader find your stash? Yes, of course. Science explained in newspaper articles that an experienced practitioner feels the vasomotor movements of the spectator. The main thing is to say a smart word, isn't it? A label. Vasomotors. And everything is immediately clear. But if our psychic doesn't touch the spectator's hand, then what? Then what kind of vasomotors? It must be said that Kashpirovsky performed mind-reading tasks not as clearly as the elderly Wolf Messing, whose life soon ended. Nevertheless, he took on, risked, studied, tried. Legends were already circulating about him. They said that in his childhood, Tolik could knock a large calf to the grass with a single touch of his hand, just approach the bull and bang, touch the forehead with a white spot, and the calf immediately falls to its knees and falls asleep. Now it's hard to say if this is true. Legends. But it is known for certain that Anatoly Kashpirovsky, being a student, showed a keen interest in the most mysterious part of our body, the brain. Later, in the psychiatric hospital, he attended 1,000 brain autopsies, mandatory upon the death of a patient. He studied what he could see. He tried to comprehend the unknown. However, in 1975, he fell seriously ill. Pancreatitis. He ended up in the hospital and spent a year bedridden. Was near death. He was saved by self-treatment. Later he admitted that he went to Sakhalin and starved himself for a long time. He had willpower, he coped, managed, returned to normal. And he understood a lot about the laws of health, the laws of the universe. Maybe then he first became imbued with his own concept, the matrix of norm. He is sure that we are all endowed with this matrix at birth. It's just that we spoil it and don't know how to reboot ourselves into this matrix. So, he worked successfully, calmed down, settled down like all of us. Soon, Anatoly Mikhailovich began practicing treatment through suggestion and hypnosis, and in those years, any hypnotist who could instill an aversion to alcoholic beverages in an alcoholic became a respected figure. Coding. Now it's a proven and very effective method. It was a time of so-called stagnation when the authorities were engaged in falsification and eyewash, trumpeting everywhere about overfulfilling 5-year plans, but there was no real progress. The elite was decaying, fattening, and not hearing the people. And the people were massively drinking vodka because, without hope, people seek solace in alcohol. In short, Kashpirovsky treated many, saved people from alcoholism, helped people. Moreover, he was one of the first to use hypnosis as anesthesia, which was very useful since some patients were allergic to drugs. And so, the risk of anesthesia was reduced to 0. Another matter was pain shock, but there were no cases with fatal consequences. 20 years after the start of his STOMI activity, Anatoly Kashpirovsky became the famous host of the TV program Health Sessions. 1989, 2 years before the collapse of the USSR. Television in those years was the most important factor influencing the people. A weapon of mass destruction. And here, some shaman claims that he can remotely heal millions of sufferers. A charlatan who promises to cure enuresis, his opponents shouted. Of course, he was criticized, scolded, hated, and loved. After all, these sessions really helped someone. Yes, many doctors denied the very possibility of such practices. Yes, he was sued. Yes, journalists wrote angry essays, yet nothing stopped him. Too many claimed they had been cured. Through the screen, remotely, even from recorded broadcasts. Science still doesn't have a clear answer. Can remote healing really work? Science doesn't know, but thousands of patients swore it did. Today, people suffer from allergies, blaming pollution, food toxins, smog. Kashpirovsky simply touched them, induced a trance. He disliked the word hypnosis, too vague, he said. After the Soviet Union collapsed, Kashpirovsky moved to the US, where he continued his demonstrations. He truly believed he could heal people with thought alone, resetting their biological systems, restoring their matrix of norm. Doctors never recognized his methods. In America, they compared him to televangelists. Believe if you want, but don't expect scientific validation. Yes, he performed in large venues, but so do many modern-day self-help gurus, and that's where things stand. Science still struggles to explain certain individuals. It often dismisses what it cannot rationalize. It cannot be because we don't understand how it works. And yet, Kashpirovsky is still alive. At 85, he has a YouTube channel. One final note, consider this quote from his 2024 interview. Why, as an influential man, did you not prevent the collapse of the Soviet Union? Why did you allow traitors Gorbachev, Yeltsin to commit this crime? I wake up with this thought every morning, and I go to sleep with it every night. Anatoly Kashpirovsky, psychiatrist, phenomenon, healer,